The summer of 2012, I decided to rebuild my body from scratch. After a severe accident in my early 20s that left me in bed and on crutches for over 5 years, I started exercising at home with bodyweight training. At first, I had no clue what I was doing. But that was over 13 years ago, and ever since I've been trying to figure out how to build muscle and get in the best shape possible without being stuck in a gym.
Mira.
Today, my goal with this channel is to help men just like me achieve all this without having to waste time and energy on all the mistakes I made along the way. To simplify all the fluff and conflicting advice that the internet constantly throws at your face and paralyzes you, whether you're in your late 20s like I was when I first got started, or you're a little bit older like me with a family, a full-time job, and all the chaos that life likes to throw on your plate. That being said, here are 7 things that I wished I knew and focused on from the very beginning. No matter where you live, what language you speak, your skin color, or your income, the most powerful muscle building skill for any man will always be the skill of training hard. And I call this a skill because learning to push yourself past the point where the real magic starts to happen takes practice. Something most beginners neglect, which is why they tend to stay stuck for what feels forever and newbie gain purgatory. So, what does this mean in practical terms? Simply said, if you want to build muscle, then every single set that you do, meaning every serious working set, has to be taken to the point where gun to the head, you can't do more than another 3 reps with good form. This is called a 3 RIR, RIR standing for reps in reserve. But here's the problem with all this technical jargon that we coaches like to use. Unless you've spent at least a year training under a decent coach or with an experienced enough training partner, then your perception of a 3 RIR is completely off, which means that not only does this number have 0 value for you, but it will actually hurt your gains more than it will help them. Having coached hundreds of men during the last decade, what I've seen over and over is that what the average guy considers an RIR of 3 is more usually an RIR of 5 to 8, which builds 0 muscle. But this discrepancy isn't because of laziness, at least most of the times. It is just a matter of not having practiced the skill of training hard for long enough with the right guidance. So how do you fix this? Well, I already mentioned the first thing, which is having someone experienced review your form and effort as often as possible, which will speed things by a lot. But there's also one more thing you can do, which brings me to lesson number 2. So most guys quit their fitness journey because what they think they're lacking is motivation. The real reason though that most guys get disheartened is because of not seeing any consistent visual progress. Because once you start seeing your body change every single month, you start to get addicted. In order though to make progress, you have to be able to see progress. And I don't care if you have the latest and most expensive fitness Garmin watch, or if you have the most expensive, shiniest training equipment, unless you have a notebook with you every single time that you train, there is no way in hell that you'll be able to make consistent gains. Unless, of course, you're on gear or you have the most elite genetics, but that is not what this channel is about. This doesn't have to look pretty, and any dirt cheap notebook will do, as long as you A, know exactly what you did last time you trained, and B, you try to do a little bit better this time. The reason this is so important is because when you don't remember exactly how many reps you got in last week, you'll always end up trapped in your comfort zone since your mind is a master at doing exactly that. So what does this mean in practice? Well, as a beginner, you want to be getting at least 1 extra rep for 1 set in every single exercise on a weekly basis, or to be lifting at least 3% more weight. And although this rate of progress obviously slows down with time, you still want to be moving the needle forward in some way, if not every single week, at least every other week, and later on every single month. If this isn't the case and you haven't been training consistently for over 2 to 3 years, something is either wrong with your training, your nutrition, or your recovery, which we'll talk more about in the coming videos, so make sure you subscribe here if you're new. Bodyweight training was how I got in shape after my accident and how I achieved, I would say, up to 80% of my best results. And if you think that that is extreme, I challenge you to find me a man who can do 20 clean pull-ups and doesn't look phenomenal without a shirt on. Whether you're new to strength training or you haven't trained in a while, there is no better foundation to focus on in the beginning of your muscle building journey. Even if you switch to a more hybrid routine right after, which is what I recommend as your next step, learning how to leverage your own body before you start lifting weights is a huge advantage. Done the right way, not only does bodyweight training bulletproof you from future injuries before you start lifting weights, but more importantly, it equips you with the ability to train anywhere and anytime. Therefore, no matter what's going on in your life, you can always get it in, whether you're traveling, on vacation, or if like me, you simply need a break from being indoors. This is why I highly recommend that you download my new guide, Bodyweight First, which is the foundational program I recommend to anyone getting started on his gymless pursuit to getting jacked, which is once again 100% free, link in the top in comment below. Especially after 30, when life gets busy and you've got more stress and less free time, being able to train without relying on a gym is the biggest time-saving and consistency hack there is. Whether you're trying to get your own business off the ground or you just had a family or both, being able to minimize the friction standing between you and your training session becomes essential from this point forward. Either you set it up in your garage, the backyard, or you simply train from your living room, like me. You can now step out your bedroom and start training within seconds. Once you're done, you can just hop in your shower, right after, step out in your kitchen, have your post-workout meal, and go on with your day. Compared to having to go all the way to the gym, finding a parking spot, changing in the locker room, waiting in line for equipment, making small talk, trying to be a good man and not distract yourself with all the good-looking ladies, and all that in reverse again, just to get home, training at home cuts your time down to more than half. That being said, setting up your home gym is super easy and it doesn't even take as much space or equipment as people think. Once again, in the beginning, you can make amazing progress training mostly with your own body weight, so just a pull-up bar and a set of rings are more than enough. But after that, once you complete at least 3 weeks of my bodyweight training program, Bodyweight First, I highly recommend that you start progressing to a more hybrid program, which mixes bodyweight training with dumbbells. If space is an issue, then I highly recommend adjustable dumbbells, which, like me, you can hide in plain sight. And you can check out the ones I recommend and recently reviewed on my channel, which I'll include in the top in comment below and the description of this video. So long before gyms started filling up with all kinds of shiny and fancy machines and YouTube started flooding you with all the amazing different S-tire exercise videos that every influencer tells you that you must do, men actually build amazing physiques just by using calisthenics, barbells, and dumbbells. And since human anatomy hasn't changed since, just as these exercises produced amazing results more than 100 years ago, the same applies today. The basics never stopped working, and if you're wondering what are these basics, well, number 1 are pull-ups and chin-ups, number 2 is the overhead press, number 3 are rows, number 4 are push-ups, number 5 is any decent hip hinge, number 6 are chest dips, and number 7 are squats. One important point I want to make here is that what makes these exercises great or not so great in the first place is learning to progressively overload them with proper form. For example,
although pull-ups are undoubtedly the king of pulling exercises, they also get a bad rep because a lot of men end up wrecking their elbows from them. This is not because pull-ups are a bad exercise, rather it is because most guys will rush into them and train them with bad form, swinging their way up and down the pull-up bar exactly like a CrossFitter. What you want to do instead though is start by working on perfect form, easier variations like leg assisted pull-ups and DC pull-ups first. For some, this may even take up to a year of hammering these progressions before you move to an actual pull-up, and that is not bad, since I promise you that these are a lot harder than they look, and especially if you use perfect form, they are as effective for building muscle when you can't perform regular pull-ups yet.
Exercise culture and self-proclaimed fitness experts that people typically like to gravitate towards for advice have a very bad habit, especially nowadays with the internet, of swinging from one extreme towards the other, which can be very, very confusing, especially for men who just want to get jacked and don't have all the time and energy in the world. And although I can come up with a ton of examples that relate to this topic, the one that I was thinking about today while writing the script for this video is how training volume recommendations have been swinging like crazy during the last years, moving away from the classic 3 to 4 sets per exercise per session that always worked to a lot more extreme numbers, such as 6 to 10 sets per exercise per session, and lately moving more towards just 1 to 2 sets per exercise per session. And the reason you see this happen so annoyingly often is because it is the oldest trick in the book when it comes to marketing yourself as an fitness expert. The way to do it is step 1, say the old way doesn't work anymore, and step 2, just swing towards the other opposite extreme and call this the smarter solution.
In a nutshell, there is no serious evidence supporting that 1 to 2 sets is better than 3 to 4 sets. And sure, there are rare exceptions from the past that build impressive physiques this way, like Mike Menzer, for example, who so many people are quoting nowadays. But you have to keep in mind that Mike Menzer, to his credit, openly admitted to taking a ton of gear, which completely changes the whole muscle building equation if you want to stay natural like me. Just to be clear, I want to say that 2 sets per exercise can work, but only under very specific conditions. If you're wondering what are these conditions, well, number 1, these sets have to be taken truly and utterly to complete technical failure, which again is a skill that takes work, and you must have already mastered perfect form and mind to muscle connection for this exercise, which is something that takes months, if not years, of consistent training, something that isn't the case for most people. And even in that scenario, I would actually argue that you have to hit the same muscle group with more exercise variety in order to get overall optimum volume for muscle growth, which brings me to my next point, which is cutting sets and adding too much variety for most people is overrated. Simply said, if you've already warmed up, then adding a 3rd set takes very little time and it increases your volume by 33%. On the other hand, especially for most average guys with time constraints, looking to keep things simple and practical, trying to make up for that extra set by adding more variety usually backfires. The reason I say this is because now that you have an extra exercise to do, you also have to prepare extra equipment for it, and most times you also have to add 1 more warm-up set. All things that take more time and increase mental and logistical friction. This is why my recommendation is always sticking to fewer movements and doing at least 3 hard sets per exercise, which is easier, as we said, to set up, easier to track and focus on, and therefore easier to stick to in the long run.
Especially if you're doing this naturally, you want to first of all accept that you can only become the most jacked version of yourself. Okay, so keep in mind that not every single guy is meant to be able to get extremely huge, just as not every single guy is meant to be able to get ridiculously lean. This also has to do with genetics and age and all that. For example, when I was a lot younger, I could be around 8% body fat and feel amazing. Nowadays, if I did that, I would definitely feel like crap. So overall, you want to typically be somewhere between 10% and 15%. Different people will feel different at different ends of the spectrum. For example, if you notice that you don't feel that great, if you get too lean, this might be because of the negative impact this has on some men's testosterone and overall vitality. But at the same time, don't allow all this to turn into a limiting belief, okay? Because I promise you that the moment you stop underestimating what is possible within a few years of training, and you also at the same time stop overestimating what is possible within a few months of training, you'll notice that you can actually achieve amazing results. You can truly transform your body and build a physique that you are really, really proud of. So that was all for today. To go deeper into the best exercises that build a jacked physique without going to the gym and how to incorporate these in your training safely, make sure you don't miss the next episode, which will already appear in the top right corner if you're watching this in the near future. Till then, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. Don't forget to download Bodyweight First, my free guide if you want to get started on your journey to getting jacked. Or if you want to speed things up even more, check out our new membership program, the Homemade Muscle Academy. Links for both of these below.